When I find myself chatting to a group of strangers, say at a party or at a work gathering, I like to ask the following question. How often do you think in words? This simple question reveals an incredible variety of our inner experiences. Some people have a constant inner monologue, an inner voice that's going, recounting their every move, posing criticism, and offering suggestions. Others, like me, have an inner voice that pops up occasionally as I'm rehearsing an important conversation or figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing next. And yet others have no inner monologue at all. That last group is the most fascinating to me. I remember the first time I met one such person. Years ago, I was chatting to a colleague, a Polish-English bilingual. And I asked her, which language do you think in, Polish or English? She scoffed. What do you mean? I just think. I have since met a few more people for whom thinking and language seem to be completely separate. One of them told me recently, y'all think in sentences? That's just bizarre. Researchers recently coined a term for this phenomenon, anendophagia. In Greek, an means not, endo means inner, and phasia means language. No inner language. It is wild to me that this term only got coined in 2024. Presumably, people without inner language have been around for thousands of years. And yet, we go about our daily lives assuming that everybody else thinks the same way we do, whether with words or not, never realizing that other people's mental worlds might be made of totally different stuff. Even those of us who do think in words don't necessarily think in words all the time. And so at that party, I follow up with another question. If not words, what else makes up your mind? A common answer is images. Maybe as you're preparing for your date tomorrow, you're visualizing where you're going to be and what you're going to do. Some people say emotion. You might feel excited about something in your future or sad about something in your past. People might imagine themselves moving, hearing sounds, touching things, maybe even tasting or smelling something. And then people pause, thinking, how can they describe the stuff of thought that isn't any of the above? They say, I think in thoughts. I think in concepts. I think in patterns. My favorite one is, I think in landscapes. Psychologist Russell Hurlburt called this phenomenon unsymbolized thinking, the stuff of thought that cannot be put into words. So, it seems that not all thinking is intrinsically tied to words. Some people might never think in words, and even those who do seem to use a mix of words and other experiences, including this abstract, hard to describe conceptual thinking. What about artificial minds? Does AI think? And if so, does it think in words? For most of humanity's existence, the question about the relationship between language and thought only made sense in the context of the human mind. Not anymore. Today's AI systems are powered by large language models, systems that can take in a question in the form of language and produce an answer in the form of language. What is more, today's AI systems are instructed or trained not just give you the answer, but actually to reason through the problem, generating one word at a time until they arrive at the solution. So, for all intents and purposes, these systems very much look like they are thinking in words. And yet, we just discussed that not all human thinking seems to be taking place in words. What about planning a route or coming up with a creative idea that just comes to you? Is AI incapable of such feats because its thinking is verbal? Maybe. If we take at face value the idea that an AI's chain of thought is a representation of how it thinks, then yes, the systems would be incapable of visual or abstract thinking, diverging sharply from humans, and especially humans who don't think in words. But there is another possibility. Researchers have discovered that AI thinking can be unfaithful. A model might reason incorrectly and yet generate a correct answer, suggesting that maybe not all of its reasoning got translated into words. In fact, one can imagine a hypothetical scenario where a model reasons internally through a problem and at the same time generates a chain of thought that has nothing to do with how it's actually solving that problem. After all, we humans do that too sometimes. We tell ourselves, no more ice cream, and at the same time find ourselves reaching for the freezer. Two thoughts, one mind. This potential discrepancy between an AI's chain of thought and its actual reasoning process is really concerning to AI safety researchers, people who want to make sure that AI is aligned with human values and goals. If a model's reasoning is reflected in its chain of thought, then it becomes fairly straightforward to identify cases of bad thinking, for instance, attempts to deceive a human. But if much of an AI's thinking takes place in this abstract, unsymbolized, pattern-like format, then identifying and correcting instances of bad behavior becomes much more difficult. How can we hope to understand AI thought if we don't really understand the format of our own abstract thought? That is a grand challenge for scientists today. In my group, we approach this challenge by asking people the same questions I ask at parties. How often do you think in words? If I ask you to take 30 seconds to imagine your day tomorrow, were there words, images, abstract concepts? We then look inside the human brain to identify the neural mechanisms that support thinking in words versus thinking more abstractly. And in parallel, we're analyzing AI systems to figure out whether what they say truly reflects what they think, and also peek inside these systems in order to learn more about this abstract, non-word-like thinking format. I love studying AI and humans side by side. Characterizing the diversity of human thinking really helps us better understand, improve, and safeguard AI systems. And in turn, studying AI internals can help us learn more about abstract, unsymbolized thinking, maybe not only in AI, but also in humans. Understanding thinking is central to our understanding of ourselves, AI, and other people. It is very possible that our skills, our values, our goals are influenced by the format of our thought. So I would encourage you to cast away the assumption that everybody else's mind is made up of the same stuff, and instead be curious about others' experiences, approaching them with an open mind. It is a long journey, but it can start with a simple question. How often do you think in words? Thank you.